This is the setup I've ended up with to drill and ream the flasks. So a 3-inch piece of RHS, clamp this on. Drill bit all the way in, pulled it down about an inch, so that will go through both. Get it all positioned. Second 8mm drill bit, just to use as a spacer so that they're all consistent. Lock this up reasonably tight for this first one. I'm not using RP7 or WD, this is degreaser. Really more about blowing the chips away than it is about lubricating. This does a reasonable job for both. At around about 10% of the cost. The good gear, 12, 13 bucks a bottle or a can, and the can's half the size of this. Buy this at super cheap for about $2.40 or something like that. Spent a lot of time on the first 2 or 3 of these and had a bit of movement in them, a little bit of play. And you'll see as it goes through, there'll be a tiny bit of flex quite often, just as it goes through the other side. You would have just seen that there then. It doesn't matter on this first cut. In fact, I don't think it matters on the last cut, so long as you actually get a good cut. A little bit different to what some people would do, where they probably put the flask together and then try and drill them afterwards, which is all good and well, but I found that for the first couple, I would have seen that there was bugger all flex on that the second time round, but I found that lock that, get it out of the way, go from 8mm up to 11.5 for the second cut. Brush. I'm not going to nip this up too much, just a tiny bit, just sort of hold its spot. It's going to want to re-find its centre. See that where it's finding its centre. That it's found it. Off, on. Clamp back up a bit. Found that if you're trying to drill it later, you are more likely to actually end up with deviation. Doing it this way makes it easier to get the coat aligned with the drag using the little tiny bit of movement that are in the nut and bolt in the corners by making the corner holes that little bit bigger and having a bit of float, and you get a better fit by putting the flask together last than trying to do it before. Anyway, that's what worked for me. I'm not going to say it's, see how that went. That went through quite nicely. But look, after the first couple, which I spent a long time thinking that I was doing a crap job, I just started hoeing into these, and by being a little bit more brazen, I suppose, a bit more of a butcher about it, but just getting into it, made a lot more progress. So I'm going to do the same thing, hover it above, but not nip this up too tight. Let it get its centre. A little bit of lube, only in the very top. Loosen it off, tighten it up. Now, this is the one that obviously we want to make sure gets a good cut, so keep it clean, keep it lubed. Doesn't matter if the first two were a little bit off. This is the one that matters. A bit of extra. I find the degreaser too has got a much higher pressure. The amount of pressure that comes through is a lot higher than the WD or RP7. So it does a better job of just cleaning it. Yeah, look, I could probably go the other way and use one of the other bits, a bit of compressed air, but I haven't. And look, I think you can see that that really didn't move. That's an optical illusion if you think that that's actually moving. It's in the cast at the top. I've put this in a lathe and put a dial gauge on it, and the shaft itself is dead square with the shaft at the top, but the shaft in the middle here isn't. Anyway, let's grab a this is 12mm shaft. Okay, so that's, I'm going to just give it a little tap, but I should clean it out first. But look, this is tight. Nice and tight. That one's so tight. Just put that down through again. You can hear the clunkiness. The shavings going down in there. Maybe this needs a bit of a clean. Rightio, rag. Now, not going to get much better than that. That's as tight as, and if needed, from here, the hand ream just to pull that out. But for the cope where this is going to get locked in, top one, I think I got that right. It's not going to matter. I can tap that in, lock it. It's going to be absolutely perfect. And I'll hand pick out of the 4 pieces that I've got for this. I'll pick the one. There's only one out of all of those 8 holes that need to have just the right amount of play in it so that it actually slips in and out nice and neat. So for me, this has worked really, really well. Hope that's of interest. Right, I fully get it. This isn't for everybody, but this is the way I do it. And I'll probably make a liar out of me and break my very first tap doing it this way. Let's speed that up a bit, eh? Important to be square, not pushing too hard. If you go through the other side too hard, you will break the bit. 3.5 mil. This one's 4.2 mil, which is with the intent of it having a 5 mil grub screw. And because this is specific to the tap kit, I'm a little bit more careful with that one. 5mm tap. I'm going to give the whole thing a quick spray so that it's actually got a little bit of lube when it's in the chuck as well. Don't do the chuck up too tight, put it on slow. Alright, slow, not too tight. Take your time. Keep your eye on it. Done. If you go to the end, that's when your brake comes. Turn it round. Now in aluminium it doesn't really matter so much doing it like this, but if you're in steel, especially with some of the bigger taps, putting the lube on the shaft turns the chuck into a clutch, and if it doesn't like going in, it'll actually slip in the chuck. That won't so much happen in these smaller ones. They're more likely to slow that down. They're more likely to grab a bit and break. But look, as I say, this isn't for everybody. I get it. I've never broken a tap this way, but I can assure you I've broken dozens doing it by hand. Go figure. Take your time, but quick and easy. Now I was going to put these pins in. I've drilled and tapped them. These are actually so close to a nice fit that this might be better off being turned into the bottom box. So I might wait till I've got the top box together, get it up to exactly the same stage, and then decide which one to make the coat and which one to make the drag, so that we get the best fit in the spaces that we want it.